that we're just looking for our first win in conference. So another opportunity to get after it, and that's our focus and our mindset is to keep working. I feel like looking back and watching the film against Illinois State, we had our opportunities to win the football game, and we didn't get it done. I feel like how we came out in the second half, that's what we talked about when we were in the locker room at halftime. Somebody had to make a play. We didn't necessarily start it the right way when we fumbled the first kickoff, but how our defense responded, got a stop, they missed the field goal, and we scored on our first play of the second half, and then we hit the onside kick, and really at that point right there is where you got to take over the game. You have full momentum of the football game, and we weren't able to, on that ensuing drive, go and score. We continue to compete, but we're not in this thing to be in close games. We've got to go and finish games and win. And I know Youngstown's in a similar situation. They've had two tough games against two tough opponents, one similar opponent in South Dakota State. And so it'll be two teams that desperately need a win that going to compete on Saturday. So looking forward to the challenge, and I know our guys are going to be ready. It's a resilient group. It's got good leadership, and I know they'll be ready to play.
I mean, are they pretty similar to you in that regard? I think the way they want to run the ball more than throw it, for the most part, defensively they don't seem to blitz a ton.
Yeah, no, they're always going to play solid on defense. I mean, Coach Bellini does a great job. Our three games against each other and then since I've been here in 2015, the game went to overtime, and then the last three years have been one possession games. Last year 17-14 felt like we let one slip away there, and the year before that it was 21-20, and we had the ball with 2 minutes to go around midfield, and we got a strip sack, and they went down and scored. So each year has come down to really the last possession of the game. They've been kind of low scoring, grinded out types of game. They're always going to run the football, and they're always going to play great defense. So it comes down to those plays, who makes the least amount of mistakes, the simple things. That's what we talked about. It's winning and losing, and we've talked about this in here before. It comes down to doing the fundamental things right. I mean, you can scheme up some plays or scheme up a blitz and make a play, but at the end of the day, you got to tackle well, you got to block, you got to do the fundamental things, you got to throw and catch, you got to get open, and those are the things that you got to break tackles on offense, and that's what it'll come down to on Saturday.
Your defense played pretty well the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, no, I've told them that I'm encouraged by the way that they're playing. There's still those, to go from a pretty good defense or a good defense to a great defense. Those series, those drives that we can eliminate some of those mistakes and be even better, and that's what we're going to keep pushing to do. I know that's what Coach Petrino and that staff continues to coach and preach and hound on, and that's what we got to have a great week of practice. I think that's where it starts. I think Malik Haynes has played the best football that he's played the last, really since he's been here. Cody Kreider, I feel like, is playing at a high level, and rotating some guys up front. We had a couple guys banged up, and it's really just next man up. So we got to continue to do that in this league. You got to play great defense, and they've done that. They've played good enough for us to win the football game the last 2 weeks.
You played two good defensive lines, but what's really happened to your protection, you think, the last 2 weeks?
We got sacked 9 times last week. We felt like 4 of them were really on the quarterback. Whether that was the first sack in the red zone on third down, just slid the protection the wrong way. They brought a field pressure, and we should slide right into it, have enough guys to protect it, and then we take a sack. Whether we talked about that after the game, whether it's setting the protection wrong, one of them should just thrown away. When there's something, you got to learn to fight another day and not try to make a play when there's not a play there to be made. Sometimes you got to throw it in the stands and get the next play. And we held on to the football, and then some of them were, just getting beat. So that's too many, regardless of how many it is, and so we got to get those cleaned up. We got to do that as coaches, and then players got to take ownership and get that corrected.
Are you more inclined to keep a running back in and just take your chances with the 3 wideouts? You know, if you keep 2 running backs in. Or
Yeah,
one in?
I mean, you always got to look at a lot of things. Again, I mean, we had 14 third downs, 7 of them were 3rd and 10 pluses. We had a 3rd and 24 in there. We had a 3rd and 18 in there. We had a 3rd and 12 in there. Not high percentage where people can either pin their ears back and come after you. So yeah, I mean, we got to look at some things. If you can 7-man protection, you got less people. You can we just got to be able to get on rhythm, and we'll be fine. We'll get it corrected, and got to do a better job.
Do you think you'll have Calvin back?
Yeah, Calvin practiced yesterday. Jeremy practiced yesterday. DJ practiced yesterday.
What about Stone?
Stone practiced yesterday.
Will he be your starter if he's healthy?
He's not been cleared to play in a game yet. So right now he's throwing. As far as when I say practice, he did the non-contact portion of practice, but had his pads on. Still hasn't been cleared 100%. It's really day to day with him on how he feels as far as really pushing the ball down the field. He looked good with the intermediate stuff, but he's still probably a week or 2 away to be able to play in a game. I mean, you still got to take hits, and you got to take a pounding, and so when I say he's in practice, he's definitely on the trend upward.
So you say 4 of the 9 sacks were, you might say, the quarterback's problem. The 5 that were the line, what is the line doing that they're not doing what that they should be doing to protect?
I mean, you got to play good. Again, you're playing against some good players. You got to win one-on-one matchups. I mean, you're an offensive lineman. You got to protect. You got to use great technique. You can't sit back there and pat the ball and hold the ball. It's a tough position to be in. We understand that, but that's their job. And sometimes it's working together with the slide side of the protection and communication. There's been a little bit of everything. I mean, when you give up 9, it's just not one glaring issue. But overall, you got to win one-on-one matchups in football. I mean, it's really about you beating the guy next to you, and if he's a good player and he's a good pass rusher, again, staying out of predictable down and distances helps you out with that. If you're a defensive lineman and it could be a run or pass, and you're not getting off the ball like that, it helps out.
Have you guys set a certain amount of time for the offensive lineman to hold out a pass rusher, and then you say, well, it's not his fault, you held him out but enough time? In other words, is it 2 or 3 seconds that you want him to hold?
Yeah, I mean, the ball's got to come out. I mean, it doesn't matter what level of football you're at. I mean, you put pressure on the quarterback. That's why they're paid. The defensive ends are paid maybe the second highest in the NFL. I mean, that's why the tackles, quarterbacks, and people that sack the quarterback are paid the most. And then because it's just this important thing. Can you protect the passer? Can you get after the passer? The ball's got to come out. I mean, you can't sit back there and drop back pass. You don't see that in college football much. These high-powered offenses and stuff, very rarely are they taking 5- and 7-step drops and patting the ball and throwing the ball down the field. It's run, it's RPO. That's why the RPO game has been such a big thing, because if it's there, the ball's coming out, and you can't get a pass rush. It could be a run, it could be a pass. But when you're in 3rd and 12, 3rd and 15, 3rd and 17, you're not calling those plays. You're passing, and they're dialing up some pressures, and so it's a collective thing. I mean, those sacks are on everybody, and we've got to get it fixed, and it's our job as coaches to put them in better positions.
What haven't you been able to do on 1st and 2nd down that you were able to do, and now these last 2 weeks your 3rd down conversion?
Yeah, just to staying ahead of the change, I mean, so obviously if you're running it, if you are, just early down success, running the football for efficient runs. Efficient runs are over 4 yards, an attempt, and you got to be efficient on 1st and 2nd down. I think just being okay with getting, even if it's 3 and 4 yards, and now you're in those 3rd and 3s, 3rd and 4s. You can run it, you can pass it in those situations, depending on where you're at, and then you got an opportunity to go for it on 4th down. I think just some of those things that we just haven't gotten a rhythm. We've had too many negative plays. We had 8 plays for a minus 114 yards in that game, whether it be penalties, sacks, or throws behind the line of scrimmage where we didn't get a block on the perimeter and got tackled for a minus yards. You're not going to win any football games. I mean, we went backwards 114 yards. So a little bit of all of that, whether it's penalties. We've had a couple penalties the last couple weeks to start drives. Now you're in 2nd 15, 1st and 15. It's a little bit of everything, and I have complete confidence we're gonna get it figured out, and our guys do too. We've had some good meetings. Everybody just got to take ownership. I mean, that's what you got to do right here. You start pointing fingers or talking about what, or we just all got to do our job better.
What do you tell Xavion and Jacob when you looked at the film, the chop blocks, did they just happen, or can you tell them, hey, you just got to be more careful with this?
Yeah, there's a couple things. I mean, Romir's, he's 5'4". This has happened to him twice. He didn't even go down to the ground. Now he was going to cut him. Sometimes the one with Romir is that's his guy, and a lot of times in pass pro, 50 was 250 pounds, and he's coming down on you, you're going to cut him. And whenever Xavion's going to slide and his guy's not there, you're going to come back and help. And just the timing of Romir cutting him coming back and putting his hand on him, that's a post chop, and so that was one of them. A couple times Jacob just was. A guy was 345 pounds or however big he is, he wore 63, 99. It was a big guy, and probably got worn out and started to cut him. It's something that we don't teach. The one on the sprint out, I feel like 63 really just threw him down and kind of looked worse than it was. I don't think he was trying to cut him on that play, but so we got to get that cleaned up. That's something that we've got to do. You got to trust your technique again. You can't. So a lot of times it's definitely not something that's taught. But as you're sliding and you come back to help, and that guy's cutting him, and you're putting your hands on him, it's not a good look.
And saying you had a really good game on Saturday. What's it been like watching him develop from time just to return me into a viable option for season?
Yeah, he's always just been a consistent guy. Sam's going to be where he's supposed to be when he's supposed to be there, and you like players like that. So continuing to get more confidence, and we have confidence in him. So he's been doing it for a long time. He's the smartest guy in the room, that's for sure. He's a junior on the field, but he's applied to medical schools. He's got a few interviews here coming up. So he's a really smart kid and good football player, and he's had a good career here.
Coach, you wouldn't say in a public setting, but you've got to be tearing your hair out looking for ways to jumpstart your offense in the 3rd quarter, right?
Well, our first play went for a 64-yard touchdown or 74. So I mean, we got jump started pretty quickly with Romir. The first play, and then had a couple opportunities. That's what I mean. We're not talking about 4 or 5 more drives. We've got to capitalize on 3 or 4 more drives a game. When these games are in the low 20s, you got to be able to be right there in them. You got to score 3 or 4 touchdowns a game. In some of these games that we're in, and we've had those opportunities. We're in the red zone 3 times and didn't score, and scored on 1 explosive play. So, but yeah, I mean that's an obvious thing that you got to get going. You got to have some explosive plays. And again, I think so many in the last 2 weeks negative plays. We had not as many negative plays and penalties like we had. We went on a 20-play drive and didn't score. I've never said that's got to be a record. And we had 20 snaps in 1 series and didn't score a point. We ended up at like the 45-yard line. So we were at the 15-yard line twice and went back to the 45. So it's just hard to, capitalize on those situations, and that's what I mean. We're back to work, and got to watch it, and sometimes it's not fun watching those things, but that's how you learn and get better. And if you take ownership in it, you'll get better.
Could Stone be cleared this week to play?
I can't even answer. I don't think so. I don't think so. We'll meet. We meet at 4 o'clock today, and we'll get our injury report. But I would just I would think not. Not yet. We haven't had those discussions yet. Just when the progression, but he could. We'll find out more about it today.
Whenever he's cleared, this week, next week, no matter if you have a quarterback competition again.
Well, I mean, we got to win right now. Correa. I mean, going into this game plan and this week, I mean, Correa's our starting quarterback. So Stone's done some good things. He was our opening day starter. I mean, we need Stone to come back and compete and get into practice and get in a rhythm. So at this point, it's not a quarterback competition because we don't have Correa's our starter, and he'll be the starter this week.
With Jeremy out, you started, I think, with 3 linebackers. You played 5 most of the year because you have with Trey. Do you think you're better with 5 defensive backs with Chin in there, or in this league when you're playing teams that maybe run the ball better than the teams you played in the non-conference?
Yeah, that's all dictated on personnel. I mean, so if you're going to play 11 personnel team, early in the season, SEMO, UMass, Arkansas State, they're going to be an 11-10. You can play some nickel personnel to match their personnel. That's what majority of college football does, is to match their personnel. So they're going to be an 11 personnel and have 3 wide receivers and a tight end, and are a spread type offense. You're going to see more DBs out there. And you play, South Dakota State's going to be in a lot of 12 personnel, 2 big tight ends. Sometimes they spread it out and you're able to get into nickel, but Illinois State was in 22 personnel, 21 personnel, 12 personnel. You're going to get that bigger, linebacker type body in there besides a DB. So I think it's just to answer your question, week to week, what they're good at and what their philosophy is and what they want to do on offense.
Their DM, Justice Reed, is he similar to the one at Arkansas State? Is he about the best one you'll see?
Yeah, I mean, he transferred from Florida and he's a good player. I mean, he's a really good player, can rush the passer, disruptive. We just got to do a good job with him, but he's one of the better ones in our league.
Their competition was not as good early, but they've been proven to be a momentous team. They will score 31, 21 points in a row. Have you seen anything why they respond that well that way?
No, I don't know. I mean, they're 4-0, and then they've lost the past 2. I mean, they got a good football team. Play a couple different quarterbacks. I know one was banged up, but could be back, and then we just we've got to do a good job. Every team that we see, they can move the football, they can run it. They've shown to run the quarterback and throw the ball efficiently. So, but just like anything in our league, we gotta stop the run, and you give yourself a chance, in this league, and it won't be any different this week.
Okay, is there anything else, Coach?
All right,
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Thanks, Coach.
Tom, how you feeling? You're good?
Yeah.